This is Dana Steele. I lost my mother, Fran Nicholson, to Alzheimer's. I remember being absolutely blindsided by the diagnosis. I thought I knew what it was, but I had no idea where to start, where to go, what to do, what questions to ask, or what was coming. So I posted on Facebook. My mom was diagnosed with early stages of Alzheimer's today. Facebook became my community and my support and my therapy group. If I didn't know what to do, you did. When Mom died, I decided I would tell our story, the good, the bad, even the funny, to try to help families and let caregivers know you are not alone. Speak up, reach out, ask for help, and remember there is no right way or wrong way to do this. I've now told my story for years in a book titled Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a Really Big Glass of Wine. In a play, The Woman in the Mirror, which will be running the month of March in Palm Springs, California at the Revolution Stage Company, and now in a podcast. And now I want to hear your story. I want others to hear your story. I want to tell your story. This is #Surviving Alzheimer's. On this episode, Kathy Arroyo, a friend of mine for many years, was dealing with a mom, a stepdad, and a dad who were all in different stages of dementia in different cities across the country at the same time, while she and her brother were living elsewhere. Someone suggested they hire a geriatric case manager, something I wish I had known about for Mom. In this episode, Kathy tells us what this case manager does, how you find one, and the interview questions you should ask. You can find these questions and links and more information in this episode's description. I moved my mom 6 times. I didn't know nobody ever told me there were people that could help me figure out this process. I felt so incredibly alone when it came to so much of this journey, but I particularly felt alone when it came to having information, and no one ever told me, and I never discovered until after the fact the wealth of information and the wealth of people that were out there. One of the reasons I did the book and did the play and now do the podcast. And joining me is a friend of mine, Kathy Arroyo. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
I've had to warn the last couple of people who've done podcasts with me. We are in our townhouse in Houston, and there's a lovely dog that lives next door, Steve. The dog's name is Steve.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of buying Steve treats, and now Steve has me trained. And when Steve hears my voice, because Steve has dog ears and Steve can hear me in here, Steve will start barking because Steve has me trained to give Steve a treat. So if you hear a dog barking, we're just going to ignore Steve till this is over. But the last time we were together, you were talking about how helpful it had been in your process to have a senior care advisor. So my first question is, why did you need a senior care advisor?
It's a great question. And I tell you what, it's caring for a parent or a loved one that has dementia or Alzheimer's is a tsunami coming in at you, and you're just a deer in headlights. And I mean, you learn that in the early stages of the disease, these folks are very good at giving you the answer they think you want to hear, and they hide it very well. My stepfather had Parkinson's, and it was progressing rather rapidly, and my mom was his primary caregiver, and this was swapped roles for them. He had always been her caregiver. And he had trouble communicating things because of his Parkinson's, and I went and he pulled me out into the patio outside, and over the course of a couple of hours, eventually communicated to me, "I'm worried about your mother. She's not right." And what do you do with that? So I actually stayed with him over a weekend and I watched her double dose his medication or underdose his medication because she didn't remember that she'd given it to him before. She thought she had already. So I got concerned. Um, and the other thing I had going for me is my brother was in this with me, and together, we had to kind of figure out what we were going to do, because to Mom, she didn't need any help. You would talk to her about, we want to help you out, and let's get someone in here to take over Phil's care. And her reaction was always, "What do you think I am, old and senile?" So she really fought
Yes.
it. Yes. And fortunately, my brother is a doctor, and he talked with people he knew, and someone in the medical field that he knew suggested a geriatric case manager. So we looked into it, and we interviewed three.
How did you know where to start, though? I'm going to make you back up a little bit. Where do you start to find this senior care advisor, this geriatric case manager? And even before that, the question that I get so much online from strangers who've not been through it: well, why didn't you just move in with them? Or why didn't you just move them in with you?
Well, I didn't move in with them because there was no room for me. Even staying there, I was sleeping on a love seat. It was not real good. They were in a senior care facility. You have your own apartment, but there's bathrooms, but they weren't getting any of the medical care there. And again, my mother was adamant that she didn't need any help, and no, she would never move in with me. Right. And you remember, I lived on a fourth floor walk up. She couldn't have moved in with me if she wanted to. So, and David was, my brother was working as a doctor. And fortunately, through his connections in the medical community, we were able to get some resources. And at that time, I think it was called the National Association of Geriatric Case Managers.
But that's the key words right there, is geriatric
Yes.
case manager.
Geriatric case managers. So fortunately, we had Google at our hands, and we looked it up. And now it's called aginglifecare.org. So they changed their name, Aging Life. I think some people might get the GDs when you say geriatric, right? Because they have a visual of what geriatric is. So it's aginglifecare.org. But we were able to go into that website, put in a zip code, an area, and come up with a list of geriatric care managers. They're certified. So there's organizations that certify people, and many, I think most probably, folks that go into this have higher level degrees, master's degrees in social work, and have a lot of experience in social work, and gravitated towards the elderly. We interviewed three people, and probably should have asked them. I kind of have a list of questions to ask to share with you, but one of the questions that we asked all three of them was, if you needed a geriatric case manager, who would you hire? And probably the biggest response they gave me is, to get someone with advanced certification. Right. So there are associates, professionals, advanced professionals, and then fellows. And they all cost different. But because I lived out of town in a different state, and David lived in the same state but not close by, we needed somebody that could be our eyes and ears on the ground. And so we did finally contract with an advanced professional. I think then they were called senior, but same difference. This woman was phenomenal. But we did spend a lot of time interviewing them before we selected on Donna. The questions, and some of these we didn't ask, but I wish we would have. So most important, how will they communicate with you? Right? How will they communicate with you? And how will they communicate with the person that they're going to help care for. So what will that communication look like? Will they call you? Will they text you? Is it going to be a video chat? Are they going to email you? What's the form of communication? And will there be a regular communication or, or intermediate? Or do we have to call and ask for an update? So how's that communication going to go? One of the things we worked out with Donna, because I was working and my brother was working. My brother was the medical power of attorney, and I had financial power of attorney. So I got most of the we need to move her calls, that kind of thing. So David got we went to the doctor and there was this issue. But one of the big things that we set up early on was if it was an urgent call, she would call, hang up, and call again. So that if I was on the job, I knew I had to move out to another area and give her a call back. That it was urgent. It wasn't just there's a bill that needs to be paid. So how do they communicate? References, I think is very important to get references. And how many patients do they currently support? If they're supporting 300 patients, versus are they supporting 10 versus 1, right? And do they have a maximum of the number of patients that they can support? And many of these case managers work for a firm, work for another company. Another question I ask is, am I hiring you or am I hiring your company? And it could be any one of your coworkers that could appear at any point in time, or is it going to be you? And in most cases, I would hope. In our case, it was, it's going to be me unless, I break my leg and I can't, in which case I'll let you know somebody's filling in for me, because many dementia patients can't tolerate that change to another person they're unfamiliar with. But that's a good question. How many patients do they currently support that have similar issues that you're interested in? If they only support people that have mobility issues and you've got a dementia issue, that's a big issue. How many of their patients are in care homes? And that's one of the things that we found out as we had to move both my stepfather with Parkinson's and my mom with Alzheimer's into care homes, joint care homes, and then different care homes, and then more aggressive care homes. We benefited from a woman in the area, our case manager, Donna, that had patients in a lot of these different homes. She knew the good ones. She knew the bad ones. She knew the ones that were better suited for the conditions of mom and Phil. And because she had multiple patients at these, she just wielded more power than, a single child would. And she was there. If she wasn't at the home visiting my mom, she was at the home visiting another patient. So she was there a lot. She would look in on mom even when it wasn't a scheduled day. And if she felt something was wrong, she went straight to management, and boy, she got their attention. So how many of their patients are in care homes? If you think you're headed that way, that's something that will benefit from these people. Ask them what they won't do for you. Our care manager took our parents to doctor's offices. We signed paperwork that they could be in the room and hear the information. And they would take our parents to the doctor's appointments. They would give us the results. They would explain things to us. They would talk with the doctor and make sure they had a complete understanding of it. So they provided the transportation. They would research facilities. So even if they were unfamiliar with a particular need, they would go out and research it. And Donna assisted in the moves. She would go there. She would actually hire a crew to pack stuff up, and she would get them moved. And she'd work with the people where mom was moving into, and help them understand clinician to clinician what mom's needs were. And I think Donna was probably did more than the average. So it's important to find out what they won't do. If mom needs to move, how involved will you be in that? Selecting the new place, researching places, getting things packed up, especially living out of town.
I'm going to jump in real quick, just because for somebody who hasn't gone through this and may be listening, moving mom was It is, anytime you move, it's awful. I mean, how many friends have called you and said, hey, I got a pickup truck. You want to help me? So everybody hates moving. Moving someone you love and having to downsize their things, because each time they move, it's usually to a smaller place, smaller facility. So it's not only a physical thing, and it's disrupting to their routine and your routine. It is emotionally exhausting trying to decide what means something to your loved one, and to have, if I had known in hindsight, that's the reason for this Surviving Alzheimer's podcast, having somebody to help you with that is just priceless. So keep going.
Yeah, and moving an Alzheimer's patient as the disease progresses, they don't respond well to changing their environment. They can't learn new things. Their short-term memory is gone. And there was weeping moments, and there was running away moments, and there was all sorts of for me as a daughter, psychologically damaging conversations. And but Donna knew how to do this, and in fact, she would tell me to stay away during the move. That she handled it in a professional, not emotional, but very respectful way. And she was worth her weight in gold. And then another question: what happens when you aren't available? So you have a family illness, or you're ill, and it's a regular weekly visit or whatever, what's going to happen? In our case, Donna had a partner. It was just a two-person organization. And so periodically they would go with each other to their patients, so they would be somewhat recognizable. But that's important for you to know, because your parent or whoever it is that is having the care is going to freak out when there's a new person. And like I said earlier, am I hiring you or am I hiring your organization? In our case, it was Donna, and it was great.
More from Kathy in a minute, including the invaluable and unexpected benefits of having a geriatric case manager and the resources they bring to you as a loved one. Hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's is brought to you by The Woman in the Mirror, an on-stage manual disguised as a dark comedy for navigating Alzheimer's with love, laughter, and a little bit of wine. You can help bring the play to the Revolution Stage Company in Palm Springs, California in March with a tax-deductible donation to our grant fund. There's a link in this episode's description and on our website at survivingalzheimerspodcast.com. It is my love letter to caregivers. Remember, when it comes to Alzheimer's, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Now, back to more of Surviving Alzheimer's. Just a reminder that the links, questions, and more associated with this podcast are in the episode description. And if you have questions, never hesitate to reach out, and I will do everything I can to help you. The benefits. What are the benefits to having a geriatric case manager?
The benefits, the cost is dependent on how many of these benefits you want to contract for. If you're local and you can take care of some of the stuff yourself, and you only want them involved on an as-needed basis, of course, it's a lot cheaper. We were not available to assist living out of town or very full jobs. So we contracted with our case manager, Donna, to visit our mom and stepdad once a week. And again, at the beginning, they were living together. It was a senior community. So they had an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment. Our concern was more for our mom, but because Phil had some advanced Parkinson's, we kind of put him in on the deal as well, for her to give us some advice on him, because we really couldn't count on what mom was saying anymore. At first, mom did not want to have anybody she didn't know come into the apartment. I don't need any new friends. I don't need any care. I don't need any help. I'm not going to pay for it. This is unnecessary. All of that denial stuff. So we basically told her, look, we're not here. We'll pay for it. We just will feel comfortable if we have somebody we know that's checking in on you. That's all Donna's doing, right? And so we went there the first visit that Donna had with them. And Donna spent a lot of time just becoming a recognizable friend for them. So she visited them once a week. She would visit them at different times of the day and night. And she would visit them when their home health care nurse came to distribute medicine. And in one of those visits, she confirmed my suspicion that my mom was mismedicating my stepfather because she couldn't remember. So at that point in time, along with the home health care nurse, the medications went in a lockbox that mom didn't have access to. The nurse came more frequently and provided the medication. This upset mom tremendously. But Donna was there, talking her through it, being her friend, explaining to her why it actually reduces the burden on it, and helped mom make that adjustment. So she really worked at building a relationship. And I think that the background in social work has a lot to do with her ability to do that. They tend to be just natural people building relationships. Donna took them both to their doctor's appointments, sat in during the appointments, made sure she understood what the issues were, took the time to communicate to mom and Phil things that they could understand, and then reported back to us. She monitored the home health care services that they had. She recommended different home health care services. At one point in time, she goes, you don't need an RN here. You can use an aide, right? And save some money this way. They work with a lot of different home health care services. So again, they have recommendations, the good and the bad. Those are things I didn't know.
I was thinking when I asked you if you would do this interview with me, that it was something that it was more emotional, psychological. It was, a comfort. I spent a lot of money on things I didn't need and places I shouldn't have put mom. So that's a benefit I hadn't thought about. It's somebody who already knows what you need, what you don't need, who you don't need. And that's going to save you a lot of time and money, and time is money.
Absolutely. And whereas my brother and I are both on Medicare now, at that point in time, we knew nothing about Medicare. And Donna knew everything about Medicare. So she helped us navigate all of those doctor billings and things that they could get. So she kept an eye on the level of care they had. A lot of Alzheimer's patients live for decades. And that tends to be the expectation. My mom went from diagnosis to death in 3 years. It was extremely rapid, which has the good points and the bad points. And one of the bad points is she moved 4 times because, we expected a certain minimal level of care for a year or two, and it really only lasted 3 months.
And same on this end, moving mom 6 times. And it was 2.5 years. Now, looking back in hindsight, we think she probably hid it for 5 to 7 years. We can pinpoint different things now that we've all become these experts. After the fact. We know
they are very good at hiding things. Donna told us one time, she said their memory regresses. And what's one of the first things you learn as a 3 and 4-year-old or 2-year-old is to behave and to say the right thing. So you learn to read other people's expectations and what you're supposed to say very on in your life. I'm not supposed to say, oh, mom, you're a dummy, right? I'm supposed to say, yes, mom, I love you. And so the benefit we got from Donna, we didn't expect, is she taught us how to communicate with mom. She had so many patients. She knew, you can't ask her, did you eat today? Because she knows the answer to that is yes. And she's going to say yes, whether she ate that day or not. What you have to ask is, what did you have for breakfast today? For a while, she's going to be able to fake that too. But after a while, she's not going to be able to fake it. She's going to go, no. So Donna helped us learn to communicate. So she informed us when she felt like they needed more care. She'd give me a call. I think it's time we move her to an advanced care facility.
And see, that's if you had somebody that was an expert in this that could say that. I had to make the decision.
Right.
Only one facility said, it's time, you need to take her someplace that has more care. Every other decision, it was just like, it felt like it was me.
And that's an enormous pressure.
It is. So tremendous guilt that I'm only just now working through in the last couple of years. I know what I did was the best I could do, and I know it was the best for her. This is another reason, if you can afford to have somebody like a geriatric case manager, it can help you. Everything has its pros and cons. Did you write down any cons? Did you write down anything you would have done differently? Cost is a thing here. There are people listening to this that are not going to be able to even begin to consider a geriatric case manager, but you've given somebody food for thought when they do have to go in and make changes and make moves. And maybe you can't have a geriatric case manager, but you can learn some lessons from what we've been through. Is there any bad sides? Is there a downside to this?
There's to the point of cost, just for a minute, because money is always a downside. At some point in time, as the financial power of attorney, their estate was paying for the costs. I mean, initially, David and I did because mom didn't want anything to do with it. But at a certain point in time, with the Alzheimer's diagnosis, we relieved her of those decisions. And they had a decent amount of savings to be able to pay for this. But we also maximized a lot of the services we could get. We both worked, so we had money if we needed to help out with that. And we were fortunate there. You can also lower to the associate case managers, the ones that are just getting involved in the business, that are being guided and mentored by the senior case managers. They're going to be cheaper. So there's the associates and there's the professionals. We went with the advanced professionals. So there's a different cost level. You could go for fewer things. They don't even have to meet them. I guess they could probably just advise you on a phone call once a month or something. You have to talk with them and know what you can afford, and they should be able to guide you with the best services they could provide for the money. If you think you don't have enough money to do it, you still make a call. Those initial interviews and assessments, they don't charge for those. So make the call, find out what they can do for you within your budget, and then take advantage of what you can, if you can. I mean, eventually you may have no other option than to seek this help.
Before I let you go, I want to talk about something that you're doing right now. And it is, I always tell people, write your story, no matter what you're going through, whether it's Alzheimer's or, whatever it is, write, like when we were kids, we kept a diary. Writing is so cathartic. And you've started writing a sort of a Substack, a blog, whatever you want to call it, but it's your cathartic way. You and I are workaholics. We love our jobs. We're very successful. We work and we work and we work. We're fortunate. We have put away money. We have retirement. We planned for our futures. And damn it, if retirement's not here and it just feels uncomfortable, it doesn't fit well.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah, so the Substack is called On the Eve of Retirement. And it's taken me a couple of years to get from I want to retire to, okay, now I need to find out if I can afford to retire. And it's actually a kind of a scary thing. And I just started writing down all the questions I had and all the information I had to do. And the big one, how much longer and how many years of retirement do I need to fund? On that point, which will become a future Substack blog, is long-term care. And I wanted to touch on that in a minute before we quit, because my mom and my stepdad had long-term care insurance. My father did not have long-term care insurance, and he got sick at the same time. We were juggling all three of these elderly end-of-life people in our lives, loved ones. And the difference in care that they were able to afford was
night and day.
And the one thing Donna kept on telling us is, thank God your parents bought long-term care insurance. She goes, you would not believe how many people I have to help that don't have this. And she told us all of the benefits. And then we actually saw it play out with what benefits my father didn't get, having to rely solely on Medicare, and the benefits that Mom and Phil got with their extended needs of advanced Parkinson's and Alzheimer's that they got from long-term care. I was a financial power of attorney for both, so I saw the bottom line. It was not long before I immediately went and got the highest level of long-term care insurance for my husband and I that I possibly could. And every year when they say your premium's going up, I'm like, here's the money.
Same here. I got it at 47. Everybody said, you are way too young to have long-term care insurance. But the younger you get it, the less the premium is, the more you're paying in. And it was one of the most, what's a good word word for it. It's just the peace of mind. When
Yeah.
I signed the papers and put that long-term care into effect, even before I knew mom had Alzheimer's, and and it was too late for her and my dad to have long-term care insurance. But yeah, you're right, and the premiums have gone up. There are laws in the state of Texas. I'm sure there are in other states. In Texas, you can only raise insurance so much so often. So the last one was a substantial raise, but they can't raise it again for another, I don't know, it's 10 years or something. And I was like, fine,
Yep.
I'm a penny pincher. I don't want to write you this check, but I will write you this check because I have seen firsthand what happens. Mom thought she had plenty of money saved for her retirement, and it was gone in the first 10 months. And we
Yes.
pick up the cost. Yeah, and I keep saying again, I am very grateful and I am very aware that we are not the norm, that we had the money to take
Yes.
up the slack. But it's still money that I would like to have spent on myself or my own retirement.
Or your children.
Yeah.
It's you always hope that you're going to age out gracefully at home, surrounded by your loved ones. But in some cases, and in my parents' case, this advanced Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, the people. If you cared for patients like that in your own home, your parents in your own home, that is all you will do, and it will wreck you.
And you can't leave them alone.
Nope.
There have been some recent horror stories. I'm not even going to repeat.
Yep.
Grandma's been left at home with the kids and did not end up well.
Right. And they're wanderers. So I'm not
Everybody's situation is different.
different.
That's the whole point of this podcast is you are not alone. There is no fucking manual.
Nope.
It's like when you have a kid, they put it in your arms and go, see ya.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a wealth of information, but you're so busy, you don't have time to research that information. And it's the same at the other end. All of a sudden they say, your mom has Alzheimer's. Here she is. Go home.
Yep.
And so that's why I try to do this, to let people know there's, maybe just one thing you or I said in this half hour has helped somebody go, oh, okay, well, I need to try that. I am also going to put a link to your on the eve of retirement,
Sure.
because there's another thing. I mean, people just don't tell you things. The arch in my left foot dropped when I was pregnant. Apparently that's normal. No one told me. And no one tells you, oh, it's going to be so exciting. You get to retire. And on the eve of retirement, it's like, but I like to work and I like the money. And this is what I want to do.
It's like, oh, I got to plan to not do anything. The big question
we have planned for it, but we're there now. And it's like, but I don't want to do that. So any parting words of advice?
Yes, I have to say that having Donna, our geriatric case manager, help us on this journey that lasted many, many years, she gave us back some feeling of control. It was like a deep sigh of relief. We're not in this alone. We've got somebody who's made this journey with other people that in an unemotional way can give us a balanced call. I was in the middle of an FDA audit in a snowstorm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, when I got the double call from Donna. Call me once, call me twice. I left the room, I called her back, and she says, if you want to see your mom before she passes, you need to come now. Being a medical device company that I was consulting with, they got me to the airport on the last plane out of town. And I made it to mom's bedside before she passed. But Donna sat with us the whole time. She was our first point of contact. We still have her contact information. And she became part of the family really fast. So we had really some level of control that we were adequately caring for our parents in the same manner that they adequately cared for us when we were children. And if we'd have done it on our own, I think I'd have a full head of gray hair and maybe needing my own geriatric case manager right now. So,
oh man, how I wish I had known all of this when Mom was diagnosed. Kathy told me later on after we recorded this that they paid anywhere from $700 to $1,000 monthly for their case manager services. And again, like she said in the episode, theirs was one of the best. So there are definitely more affordable rates should you choose to go this route. You can find out more at aginglifecare.org. Again, that link, list, and more are in this episode's description. And remember, you can follow me across everything on social media: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever platform you use, for more #Surviving Alzheimer's information. I'll be back in just a sec with some information for veterans. This podcast is brought to you in part by the book Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine. When Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I posted it on Facebook. What started as a way to let friends and family know Mom had Alzheimer's turned into a support system for me, and from that turned into a support system and a community. The first half of the book is the Facebook post, and that's to give people a sense of you're not alone. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's okay to laugh at inappropriate things. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say bad words, drink wine, and throw things. The other half of the book is very important resources for caregivers. The one thing I want you to take away is you never know. Love your family. Love everyone. Take every adventure. Do everything, but also make sure you have everything ready to go and you're organized in the background so that when all is said and done, you have lived today. I wish I had known. And if I wish I had known, I think there's other people that wish they could know what's coming next. Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine is available at Amazon in paperback and Kindle versions. And now, back to the podcast, Surviving Alzheimer's with Dana Steele. Thanks for listening to the podcast. It is always appreciated. If you'd like to tell me your story, there's a link in this episode's description, or you can go to survivingalzheimerspodcast.com and just use the contact form there on the website. By the way, we're just coming off of Veterans Day a few days ago when we recorded all of this, and I wanted to make sure you were aware of the fact that the VA, the Veterans Administration in the U.S., has several programs available for memory care and long-term care. Some are good, some are okay. But if the person that you're caring for, your loved one, has dementia or Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, there are some programs available through the VA for your veteran. So just call your local VA office and they can help you. My mom actually qualified for a substantial amount of money because my late father served in World War II, something I would not have known about if somebody hadn't told me. So thanks again for listening. If you need more information, again, you can find me at survivingalzheimerspodcast.com. Thanks for listening to #Surviving Alzheimer's. The podcast is produced by Blue Squirrel Productions and JFA Entertainment. Dana Steele, me, executive producer. It's brought to you by the book Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. You'll be able to see the play, The Woman in the Mirror, in Palm Springs, California at the Revolution Stage Company in March of 2024. The original music in the podcast, I Remember, was written and is performed by Jeannie Cunningham. If you have questions, something you'd like to share, or you'd like to tell me your story, you'll find the corresponding links in this episode's description. And do me a favor, please subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. And as Mom always said, I love you, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck.